narration, the narrator Niju describes about two episodes during her journey. The first one was to Simapuri, where she witnessed the rag pickers in the Simapuri. And the second one was to Firozabad, where she watched the condition of the bangle makers. Here in Simapuri, people were squatters who came from Bangladesh in 1971 in search of their living, as there were many storms that had blown away Puri. They picked up rags, there were children and there were adults. For children, trapped as far as their condition, they are living in the miserable condition. They had not the houses, they lived in cloth, grass, and tent made houses. Somehow they had their names in voter list and ration cards enabled them to buy grain. It is very hard for them to get food for the day, for himself and for the family. Children were in rag clothes and barefoot. It was the miserable and pathetic condition there. Now we are going to enter the second phase of the chapter, where we will discuss about the condition of the bangle makers in Firozabad. There were the workers who worked in a hazardous condition without any proper air, without any proper light, and they were in narrow cells. Among them, there were the adults and the children. And for children, it was a very dangerous because they had to work in suffocated atmosphere, in a dirty cell, and there is always mishappening with them. They work there at high temperature and sometimes because of the polishing and of the dust, they lose their eyesight before they getting adults. The adults also work very hard, but unfortunately, they could not manage their new homes. Somehow they renovate, and it was a surprising zone for them. Each and every family in Firozabad was engaged in making bangles, and the same situation was there also. They also looked in the miserable conditions and struggling for their livelihood. Their descendants also engaged like their forefathers. And when the narrator asked one of the boys named Mukesh, who replied her that he had a dream to become a motor mechanic and to drive a car. It was a surprising zone among the traditional. It was innovative decision for Mukesh because it was a different one and it was a very daring and encouraging decision among the traditional society. When the narrator asked the people why they are not going to unite in a cooperative, then they replied there was no leader among them who can hold them in a proper way. They had the fear of being arrested by the police imposing a false case against them. So that's why they are under the effect of a kind of tradition, where the upper class people, middlemen, police, administrator, and officials trapped them in the vicious circle of the past, in which they are engaged and unable to come out of this. This was the condition. But America's story, as far as in glass industry is concerned, as far as in Firozabad is concerned, it was none other but the Mukesh who dreamed of being a motor mechanic and to drive a car. It was a very daring decision and exceptional one, especially among the traditional in the society. Dynamic world when we are going to do the work sometimes without thinking. And now we are going to destroy our entire humanity after the scientific death ourselves and to others so that we can maintain peace. And in this poem, the poet discusses about the development of the nuclear weapons. If there is a nuclear war, there is a threat of destroying the generations, and after the result, the young generation will find in ignominious darkness where they settle here but unable to know what they have to do. In such a situation, the importance of peace is a great one. The poet gives an example of the earth, which seems non-living but proves to be a greater one. Teach us the important lessons of silence and harmony and to live with peace and love together to maintain this entire creation by the God. And that's why the finally once again the poet Pablo Neruda appeals us to keep quiet before he departs from his writing from 1 to 12. Poem Fire Eyes. In this poem, picturizes contrasting images of fire and ice. Describes about the opinion of the world will end in fire. And some say in ice. And the poet says that the world will end in fire. Because the fire symbolizes desire and a desire and to overconsumption of the things in the world without compromising other people's need. Hence, the poet Robert Frost has observed the theme and finally he supported the one who favors fire. On the contrary, he also clarifies the fact that ice, which symbolizes hate, can also destroy the world if it has to perish twice. Because hate is also a negative quality in human being, which creates jealous. Friends, we are going to discuss about the important lesson that is related to class 12, and it is the last lesson. In this lesson, ML, the language teacher, discusses about the importance of the mother language. And there is a student named the French. So very good evening to all of you, the students. And now we are going to summarize the lesson number 4, the enemy. The lesson belongs to the period when there was the World War. I think World War First, when America and Japan were bitter enemy. And there are the important character in this story, Dr. Sadao, Hana, and the white American soldier, along with Sadao's father. Sadao was a Japanese, and his father chief concern was to get him as a doctor, for which he had struggled a lot, and he wanted him to a doctor. For the further study, he sent him to America, where he learned about medicine. An American professor taught him to save a man as long as possible without any discrimination either on the race, culture, or any racial background or about on the country. After all, Sadao returned to Japan not only as a surgeon but also scientist. In the same period, Sadao and Hana had a meeting. And it was by chance Sadao was invited to an American professor where Hannah was already there. Hannah was an American medical student and was already there at the professor's house where Sadao went and they became friends. Their friendship became closer and closer, and finally it was so close that they were ready to get married. They did not marry very early, but they returned to Japan, and Sadao's father arranged the marriage in Japanese ways. After that, they lived together with happiness. Meanwhile, an incident took place that when both were at their roof, they saw a man floating in sea water. They got down and found out the American war prisoner. They were in dilemma whether they save him or not. And after all, being a human being, they felt pity on the man and took him to their house, where Shadao and Hannah, though they did not like to do something for them, but after all, Shadao decided to operate him as he was seriously injured. Before operation, Shadao was in dilemma whether to operate him or not. Even he was unable to find out the fact why he was going to save the man, an American prisoner who was his enemy. But after all, Shadao decided to operate him. During this period, Hannah cooperated him very well, and Shadao asked Hannah to get closer to him as the white man needed anesthesia during the period of surgery. Hannah helped Shadao to do as he had instructed, and after all, after a hard work, Shadao succeeded to get the bullet out of the white man's body. And during this period, Shadao was just like a normal surgeon, forgot even that he was his enemy. And when Shadao operated him very well, the man got recovered. As soon as the man got recovered, Shadao remembered of his promise as a countryman. It was his duty as a countryman to inform the police or general. So, in this perspective, Sadao sent the white man. Sadao did not send, rather, he thought about it to inform the old general. He informed about the presence of the white man in his house to the general. The general, who was treated by Sadao, that's why he told Sadao that he would save him every possible way without any execution. And he told him that he would send 2 murderers at any planned night to kill him and manage all the things. Shadao waited for the murderers, but they could not come, as the general forgot the promise and he did not send them. And finally, when Sadao understood the thing, he decided the man to save him again. He decided to send him his own native country where he lived. And for this, he secretly bought the belongings for the white man from the market and arranged a boat where all the belongings were loaded on it. And he gave the white man his own torch, which he used during the operation. And he informed him to signal him once if everything was safe, as it was a necessary thing for him. But he instructed him not to signal at night because he would be observed. He told him to wait for a Korean ship, and after all, the things will be managed. During the situation, when Sada was in such a condition, another part we have to know that during this process, the gardener, Yumi, the cook, and other servant left Sadao's house. In such a critical situation, Hannah was not accustomed to do the hard labor of the kitchen. But anyhow, she managed the things very well. She did not find herself in such a situation to be hopeless. Rather, she managed the things. Even Sadao also cooperated her well. Both of them helped each other to face such kind of challenges in life. And the gardener was suspected for this on his own young master Sadao. The servant thought that for so many years they lived in America and they forgot the duty as a countryman and as a patriot. But Shadao understood the things very well. Now the question arises, as far as the Shadao's character is concerned, it is the most important question from this chapter. Shadao had performed every values, and for the sake of all this, as a doctor, he treated his own patient, though he was his enemy, but did not show any partiality or any indifference to it. Rather, he treated well to the white man. And finally, as a doctor, he helped him to save his life. And as far as the countryman is concerned, he reported the general about the presence of the white man, and he did not show any partiality or any secret here. Rather, he reported to the old general. So, as a countryman, he performed this job. As a human being, Shadao did what his inner feeling communicated to him. And after all, this chapter, the enemy here justified the things that humanity is supreme all over this. Though the white man was his enemy, an American soldier, but as a human being, he was doing his own duty. And as a doctor, Sadao was doing his own duty. But Sadao was in dilemma of doing his dual duty, first as a doctor and second as a countryman. As a doctor, he was taught by American professors to save a man as long as possible, without any discrimination or difference on the basis of culture, religion, or any native country. So after all, Sadao did what his professor had taught him. And on the other hand, it was his duty to report what happened, especially with him, as it was a patriot feelings to the country, and it was his duty as a countryman to surrender the white man to the general. So he reported the general about the presence of all this. Now we have a quick summary in Hindi about the lesson, the enemy. The lesson, the enemy. सप्लीमेंट्री के चौथे पार्ट से उद्धृत द एनमी, जिसका नाम है शत्रु। ये कहानी उस विश्व युद्ध की है जब अमेरिका और जापान दुश्मन थे। यहाँ पर जापान का एक बालक है जिसका नाम शडाओ है, जिसके पिता की सबसे बड़ी चिंता थी कि वह उसे पढ़ा लिखा करके एक डॉक्टर बनाए। जापान में चिकित्सा पद्धति इतनी त्वरित नहीं थी, इसलिए उन्होंने उसे पढ़ाई के लिए अमेरिका भेजा। अमेरिका जाने पर उसे अमेरिका के चिकित्सा विज्ञान के प्रोफेसर ने पूरी तरीके से शिक्षित किया, चिकित्सा में, एनाटॉमी में, शरीर रचना क्रिया विज्ञान में, और उसे निर्देशित किया कि एक डॉक्टर का कर्तव्य है आने वाले जो व्यक्ति है, जितना अगर घायल है तो जितने लंबे समय तक हो सके उसकी रक्षा की जाए, जात के आधार पर, नस्ल के आधार पर, किसी देश के आधार पर न की जाए, अभी तो उसकी जान बचाई जाए। और इसी दौरान सड़ाओ की मुलाकात अमेरिका के एक विद्यार्थी, एक लड़की जिसका नाम हना था, जिससे उसकी मुलाकात हुई। संयोगवश सड़ाओ को भी अमेरिकन प्रोफेसर के द्वारा घर पर आमंत्रित किया गया था, जहां पर हना पहले से मौजूद थी। दोनों की मुलाकात हुई और दोनों मित्रता में बन गए। धीरे धीरे उनकी मित्रता इतनी नजदीक होती गई कि वे वैवाहिक दाम्पत्य सूत्र की ओर आ गए। लेकिन उन्होंने कोई जल्दबाजी नहीं की। अब जब वे जापान पहुंचे तो उनके पिता ने पूरी तरीके से शादी का जो प्रबंध था वो जापानी तरीके से किया और वो एक परिवार के रूप में साथ साथ रहने लगे। इसी दरमियान उन्हें, जब वे छत पर टहल रहे थे तो उन्हें एक व्यक्ति पानी में तैरता हुआ दिखाई दिया। जब वे नीचे आए तो उन्होंने आग पहचाना तो देखा कि वो अमेरिका का युद्ध का एक कैदी था, एक अमेरिकन था जो उनका दुश्मन था। दोनों इस दुविधा में पड़ गए कि इस आदमी का क्या किया जाए। वो आदमी दिखने में मासूम लगता था कि उस पर हना को दया आ गई और फिर सड़ाओ और हना दोनों उसको अपने कमरे में लेकर के आए और अंततः डॉक्टर सड़ाओ ने एक डॉक्टर होने के नाते उसका ऑपरेशन किया और पूरी तरह से उसका इलाज किया। जब वो पूरी तरह से जो है ठीक हो गया तो डॉक्टर सड़ाओ ने बूढ़े जनरल को सूचना पहुंचा दी कि एक सख्त व्यक्ति एक रात उसके घर आया था और उसने उसका पूरी तरीके से इलाज किया। बूढ़ा जनरल इस बात पर पूरी तरीके से और भी आश्वस्त हो गया। उसने सड़ाओ से कहा कि अगर उस बूढ़े जनरल को एक बार बेहोशी की स्थिति भी आ जाए तो उसे सड़ाओ पर भरोसा हो गया कि स्वाभाविक रूप से वो उसे मारने नहीं देगा। और वो हंसा कि आपका व्यक्तित्व ही ऐसा है कि आप इतना अच्छा काम कर रहे हो। और उसे आश्वासन दिया कि वो चिंतित न हो, उसके खिलाफ कोई कार्रवाई नहीं होगी। आपित वो 2 हत्यारों को भेज देगा किसी रात को, जो उसको अंदर ही अंदर मार करके उसकी लाश को भी गायब कर देंगे। सड़ाओ मन ही मन संकुचित हुआ, लेकिन जो बूढ़ा जनरल था वो इस वादे को भूल गया और आखिरकार सड़ाओ ने उसको उसके स्वदेश भेजने का पूरी तरीके से प्रबंध कर दिया और उसके लिए बाजार से आवश्यक सामग्री खरीदी और उसे एक नौका का प्रबंध करके उस पर सारी सामग्री को रख दिया और रखने के बाद उसे निर्देशानुसार अपनी टाल दे दी, जिसको वो चिकित्सा के समय इस्तेमाल करता था, और उससे कहा कि गोधूल बेदा से पहले वो उसे उस टार्च से एक बार संकेत कर देना कि सब कुछ ठीक है और वो एक कोरियाई जहाज का इंतजार करेगा, लेकिन निर्देशित ये किया कि रात के अंधेरे में न करे, अन्यथा वो देख लिया जाएगा। इसके उपरांत ये जो पाठ है इसमें नौकर का भी हम जिक्र करेंगे, जिसमें यूमी जो रसोईया था, एक बूढ़ा माली था और अन्य जो नौकर थे, ये सब उस समय पर छोड़कर चले गए जिस समय सड़ाओ ने उस आदमी की चिकित्सा की। लेकिन हना एक ऐसी लड़की जो इन कठिन कार्यों को करने में अभ्यस्त नहीं थी, उसने बड़ी बहादुरी से इन परिस्थितियों का सामना किया, सड़ाओ की हर संभव मदद की और वो इन परिस्थितियों में उसके साथ थी। उसने कभी भी अपनी हिम्मत नहीं हारी और बहादुरी से हर चीज का मुकाबला किया। तो सड़ाओ का जो चरित्र है वो अपने आप में इसमें श्रेष्ठ है ही है, साथ ही साथ हना का भी चरित्र भी अपने आप में श्रेष्ठ है। दोनों ने मिल करके इस परिस्थिति का डटकर मुकाबला किया। ये पाठ इस ओर इंगित करता है कि सर्वप्रथम एक मानव होने के नाते कोई भी व्यक्ति है उसकी रक्षा करना उसका दायित्व है। एक चिकित्सक होने के नाते उसका ये दायित्व है कि बिना किसी भेदभाव के वो किसी की भी रक्षा करे। ये इस पाठ का सारांश था। इस पाठ को पुनः एक बार आप अध्ययन करेंगे। कहीं पर कोई भी चीज अगर आपको असहज लगती है तो उसके बारे में आप कमेंट के माध्यम से सूचित करें या किसी अन्य माध्यम से आप सूचित कर सकते हैं। आपके उन समस्त प्रविष्टियों को समय पा करके उसका निदान किया जाएगा। अब आप आगे के लिए प्रतीक्षित रहेंगे और पूरी तरीके से इसका अवलोकन करेंगे। धन्यवाद। Dear students, very good evening to you. And in the reference to our supplementary edition, we are going once again to summarize the next lesson, lesson number 5, which is a play. And in this play, there is an important character of Mr. Lamb and a boy who is 14 years old, Derry. Both are partially disabled. Mr. Lamb is a matured man leading to old age, while Derry, a teenager who has one side face burnt with acid. Derry is downcast because of his burnt face and avoids the people's company because the people look at his face and comment. And in this escapement, by chance, he passes through Mr. Lamb's garden, finding it quiet and peaceful, and as a privacy, Derry sneaks away to Mr. Lamb's garden secretly, but finds surprised to hear Mr. Lamb's voice. Suddenly, he meets a man like this. Derry becomes angry and decides to make a plan to go away from there. But somehow, Mr. Lamb tries to explain the things very well. Derry always makes a question in different ways. Mr. Lamb is a matured man. He has experienced and studied the things very well. He is bold and fearless. Even disabled with one leg, having 10 legs, he learned how to do the works in the garden. He is open-hearted and kind-hearted man, likes the company of anyone. By the other hand, Derry, a teenager always avoid the people, thinking that the people would see him and comment at him. But both meet each other and there is an argument to take the different things. Derry always blames the people and his burnt face, which makes him to think like negative in life. But in spite of all this, Mr. Lamb always explains him that there are other things which he can do and become a positive one in life. But Derry, being depressed, always thinks of his negativity and finally blames himself and other people who comment on it. Mr. Lamb gives him a different types of examples and mentions about a story who hides himself in the house because he has the fear that his feet has on his skin, banana skin, and he slips away down the path and the people will laugh at him. And also that while traveling on the road, a vehicle, a bus or motor bus, drive over him and to knock him down. And a girl with whom she or he falls in love and she cheats him away. And different kinds of things he was thinking in his mind. And what happened? One day, a picture in the room to answer all the questions. Mr. Lamb explains him very well, and at last, Mr. Lamb tries to ignore him and to move to the beach, saying that you will not challengeable in such a situation, and promises Mr. Lamb that he does not know about him what he can do. Mr. Lamb challenges, telling him that he will not come here again after our he visits his home again and finding her mother there, his mother there. His mother was asking him where he was. Derry replies her each and everything happened at the garden and begging him for the garden. But Derry's mother stops him to stay there at home. Derry replies her that he to go there. And finally, Derry and Mr. Lamdad and feels sorry for it. The lesson, the play comes to an end with the lesson that a good man, Derry, who is downcast, he becomes a positive one to face all the challenges in the life. The lesson is now we have few words in Hindi. पार्ट ऑन द फेस ऑफ इट एक नाटक है जो एक वयस्क यानी वयोवृद्ध मिस्टर लैम और एक 14 वर्षीय बालक डेरी के बीच की अपने आप को घर में कैद करके रखता है। जब कभी भी बाहर वो निकलता है तो उसे ऐसा लगता है कि लोग उसके चेहरे को देखते हैं और डर जाते हैं और उसके ऊपर बातें कमेंट करते हैं, इसलिए वो लोगों से बचना चाहता है। इसी क्रम में वो एक दिन घर से बाहर निकलता है और भागते भागते एक बगीचे के पास पहुंचता है। प्राकृतिक वातावरण है, कोई व्यक्ति नहीं है, वो चुपके से उस बगीचे में प्रवेश करता है दीवार फांद करके। लेकिन जब उसे मिस्टर लैम की आवाज सुनाई देती है तो वो चौंक जाता है और फिर से वहां से हम उसे समझाते हैं कि उसे वहां से भागने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है। कई मिस्टर लैम उन्हें बताते हैं कि उनके पास भी एक पैर नहीं है, असली जो पैर है वो युद्ध में चला गया था, इसलिए उन्होंने तिनका पैर लगवाया है। लेकिन डेरी उनसे कहता है कि वह आधा जला हुआ जो चेहरा है वो नहीं छिपता है, इसलिए डेरी कई बार कटाक्ष करता है, उसे पूर्ण रूप से समझाने का प्रयास करते हैं और यथाउचित उदाहरण देकर के समझाते हैं। एक बार तो वे उसे एक ऐसा उदाहरण देते हैं जिसमें एक व्यक्ति डर के मारे अपने आप को घर में कैद करके रखता है कि कहीं उसके पैर खेले के छिलके पर न पड़ जाए और वो फिसल करके न गिर जाए, कहीं कोई वाहन सड़क पर चलते समय उसके ऊपर न चढ़ जाए, उसे कुचल न दे, किसी लड़की से वो प्रेम करे और उसे धोखा देकर न चले जाए। ऐसी कुछ बातों को लेकर के वो घर में अधिकतर समय कैद रखा था। एक दिन दुर्भाग्यवश एक पेंटिंग उसके सिर पे ऊपर गिरी और वो मृत्यु को प्राप्त हो गया। इस पर डेरी वह हंसता है, मिस्टर लैम भी उसका साथ देते हैं। लेकिन सारे उदाहरणों के बावजूद डेरी बार बार यही कहता है कि दुनिया की हर चीज बदल सकती है, उसका जो आधा जला हुआ चेहरा है वो नहीं बदल सकता है। मिस्टर लैम उसे समझाते हैं कि जीवन में केवल जला हुआ चेहरा ही सब कुछ, बहुत सारे ऐसे कार्य हैं जिनको करके वो अपना जीवन यापन कर सकता है और अपने जीवन को श्रेष्ठ बना सकता है। लेकिन डेयरी कहता है कि जब कभी भी लोग उस चेहरे को देखते हैं तो ये कहते हैं कि ये वो चेहरा है जिसको केवल माँ पसंद करेगी, कोई और नहीं पसंद करेगा। इसलिए वो लोगों से दूर भागता है और लोगों के उस टीका टिप्पणी से बचना चाहता है। बार बार वो कहता है कि कोई भी उसे प्रेम नहीं करेगा, कोई भी उसकी गाल पर चुम्बन नहीं देगा, केवल उसकी माँ ही करेगी, क्योंकि उसे ऐसा करना पड़ता है। मिस्टर लैम डेयरी को पूर्ण रूपेण तरीके से उचित उदाहरण देकर के समझाते हैं और आखिरकार डेयरी जो है उनसे यही कहता है कि सब कुछ बदल सकता है, लेकिन उसका चेहरा नहीं बदल सकता है। मिस्टर लैम कहते हैं ये अच्छा बहाना है, अगर तुम घर पर चले जाओगे तो तुम वापस इस बगीचे में नहीं आ पाओगे। डेयरी कहता है कि मिस्टर लैम से भाई ये चीज आप ही कर सकते हो, ये आप ही के ऊपर है। लेकिन वो भी कहते हैं कि अगर तुम एक बार घर से गए तो तुम घर से वापस नहीं आ पाओगे। डेयरी कहता है मैं वापस आ जाऊंगा, मैं वापस आ जाऊंगा, देख लेना। डेयरी घर जाता है जहाँ पर अपनी माँ को पाता है। उसकी माँ उससे कहती है कि तुम्हें वहां जाने की जरूरत नहीं है, मुझे पता है कि लोग कैसे इस समय वहां नहीं जा पाया तो कभी दोबारा नहीं जा पाऊंगा। अपनी माँ के कई बार रोकने के बावजूद भी डेयरी फिर से मिस्टर लैम के बगीचे में पहुंचता है और जब वहां पहुंचता है तो देखता है कि मिस्टर लैम सीढ़ियों से गिर गए होते हैं और मृतप्राय होते हैं और उनकी मृत्यु हो जाती है। डेयरी बहुत जोर से चिल्लाता है, सिसकियां भरता है और पूरी तरह से रोता है और पश्चाताप करता है। लेकिन वो व्यक्ति जिसने उनका मार्गदर्शन किया डेयरी का, वो अब इस दुनिया में नहीं है। नाटक या एकांकी इस चीज को सिखाती है कि जीवन में हमें विषम परिस्थितियों में भी धैर्यवान होकर के आने वाली कल का आने वाली चुनौतियों का सामना करना होता है। एक कमियां या कई कमियां होने के बावजूद भी जीवन के कुछ अलग पहलू हैं जिनको हमें समझना होगा और उन्हीं के आधार पर जीवन को जीना होगा। किसी चीज से अगर हम अपना एस्केपमेंट ढूंढते हैं, यानी उससे दूर हटने की कोशिश करते हैं, तो जीवन का अंतिम लक्ष्य नहीं है। जीवन को हमें चुनौतियों का सामना करके जीना ही पड़ेगा। इस पाठ को ध्यानपूर्वक पढ़ें और महत्वपूर्ण बिंदुओं पर ध्यान दें। इस साल चैनल को सब्सक्राइब। Mr. Official, very good evening to all of you. Lessons. We are going to summarize the last and the final lesson from supplementary. It's a on the other hand, Vama. Both are a vital